Okay, everyone, welcome to the May 2015 GNU Radio Developer Dev Call, broadcasting live and direct across the planet. We don't have any Europeans on the call this time. I mean, like, I'm obviously European, but not in Europe at the moment. It's a shame. Okay, so the agenda has been posted on the in chat in IRC, which I suggest everyone who wants to listen into this call joins, like GNU Radio on Freenode. It's a very small agenda, which is good because I at least have to head out early today. But if there's anything people want to talk about, like this would be a good time to bring it up, other than what's on the agenda, which right now is a couple of announcements and the working groups. Nothing good. So first of all, a couple of announcements. So Tom is on his phone, and Phil's mic is not working, so I'm just going to read these all out, and you can just jump in. So first of all, there's a new SDR is actually happening right now in WPI, and the reason we're bringing it up in this call is because there's a substantial GNU Radio presence there, and there's actually going to be a GNU Radio like a hands-on session. I think it's today. Is that right? Can someone confirm that?
Yeah, today starts at 4:30, I believe. At least I hope, because right now I'm calling in from lovely Brattleboro, Vermont, on my way down to Worcester.
Yeah, so that'll be happening today. So I mean, if you're like listening to this right now, it's probably a bit late, but I just wanted to mention that we're doing this. So there'll be a interactive session organized by Tom and a couple of people from Edis.
Yeah, organized by Neil from Edis mostly. I just get to be the pretty face of it, really. He's done all the hard work, though.
Shout out to Neil, who is been pretty busy with this. Also, so this is the new SDR is a small SDR focused conference at WPI. Next week there is wireless at Virginia Tech. That's also like had a couple of years, been running a couple of years, and there's also always been some radio presence there. So that's next week at Virginia Tech. So once again, like it's probably a bit late if you haven't heard of it right now, but this is one of those conferences that we usually attend. So next week there'll be a couple of things GNU Radio related. I don't know, Tom, are you doing something with Ben?
Right? Yes. Yeah. So Ben, Philip, myself, Tim, and Rick Melendek from GRCon last year are giving a session on open source and open source tools in software radio research. And by the way, by a couple of years, I think this is actually the 25th anniversary of the symposium.
Yeah. It's been running for quite a while now. So, but it has
so we're on Thursday morning, I believe. So it's a session on open source wireless stuff. Yeah.
Thursday also I'll be talking about RFNOC. I think maybe parallel to that. And there might be some talks, might be some presentations even. I haven't actually checked the agenda in great detail. But in any case, there'll be a substantial GNU Radio crowd there. And Phil's actually invited GNU Radio guys over to his place on Tuesday night, which I'm announcing because his mic isn't working. So even if you're not actually attending the conference, but you happen to be in Blacksburg, there's a way to meet us. By the way, there's been a couple of people who have been doing their own GNU Radio meetings locally. For example, Mike Osman does his Denver thing. We do encourage these, and we can announce them on the call if you like, if you need more publicity. It's a very nice thing. So, by the way, no, there's actually one thing I forgot. So the IEEE student branch Karlsruhe, which I used to be an active member of, is doing their second iteration of the IEEE Signal Intelligence Challenge this year. I think it's already started. So you have to be a student in Germany to actually participate. But if you just want to follow what's going on, it's quite interesting. I think I'll post a link after this call to the page. So this year, actually signing up is already involves solving some puzzles, and the actual challenge, it consists of solving puzzles related to RF signals. The main prize is a user B210. It's pretty hard challenge, but last year it was quite a success, and yeah, we're looking forward to a bigger crowd of students participating this year. Also, Chris pointed out there's the Cyber Spectrum, which is the next Cyber Spectrum of the Bay Area. So the Cyber Spectrum of the Bay Area is like a monthly meetup where we just discuss SDR stuff, and there's anyone can come and present anything vaguely SDR related. The next Cyber Spectrum will actually be next week at the EDIS headquarters in Santa Clara. You can sign up on meetup.com, so it's free. Just come, there's pizza and beer, and you will hear all about SDR stuff. Unless, of course, you're at Virginia Tech. Okay, that's pretty much all the announcements I had on my list. I think the bigger announcement is GNU Radio Conference, GRCon, which we've been talking about in every single call, for the last 3 calls at least, which is our big annual conference. It's on starting August 25th. So the call for participations or call for presentations is over now. We have a lot of participants who have volunteered to talk about their work, their research, whatever they're doing. So content-wise, it'll be pretty interesting, but it's definitely not too late to actually sign up as a as a participant. You just to come buy tickets. It's in where is it, Tom? Sorry, I forgot.
It's in DC.
Okay, again, yeah.
Downtown DC.
Yeah. So I'll actually post the link again in chat for the actual conference website.
Mm.
Tom, is there anything you want to say about GRCon while I dig out the link?
Just as you mentioned, the people have already submitted their stuff, so submissions are closed, and we'll let everybody know schedule-wise, acceptance, et cetera, probably next week at this point. I think we're on track for that. We had a meeting about it earlier this week, so people should know if they've submitted a paper how things stand by next week. I hope. Otherwise, I think everything else. Yeah. Okay. Otherwise, I think everything else is well on track to get us set up and have a great conference.
Cool. Yeah, we're all very excited for that. You should definitely come if you're in the area. It's great value for money. You meet all of the developers and other people. There's hands-on stuff. It's very educative, very interesting, and there'll be lots of opportunity to meet up outside of the official agenda, drink beers, etc. Okay. The only other item I have on the agenda is the working groups, and so very briefly we want to talk about the working groups themselves, but also just report what's going on. So coming up, so working towards GRCon, it would be nice if all the working groups had developed an agenda for themselves, goals, milestones, things like that. Something that we can sort of, quantify and verify, work towards. Okay, so we have 5 working groups currently going on. Tom, is there anything you want to add to that, like agendas for working groups?
No, just maybe just to explain a little bit more that a lot of the working groups have had particular goals set in the past, basically 2 years since we created them, and most of those goals, with a few exceptions, but most of those goals have been completed and satisfied, and in cases exceeded what we wanted from them. And I just, so the next round is to kind of refocus and figure out what the next stages of each of these of the focus is and the next goals are. to kind of get the momentum that we had going with them back now that we've completed a lot of what we had done before. So that's just the intent of what we want to do, so that when we hit the ground at GRCon, everybody's got a good sense of what each group is going to be focusing on and what the next big challenges are.
Right, and to explain what's so special about GRCon as a point in time for this is because parallel to the actual presentation track, we'll have an actual work track where we'll do stuff within the working groups. So once we actually head to GRCon, we should have a very clear understanding of what each working group is trying to achieve. Now, we can elaborate on those milestones and goals at GRCon itself. That's also fine. But it's very important that at least the working group leaders have a clear understanding of where they're trying to go with this and what the intention is. So we're not necessarily need to discuss this right now because we just came up, we just announced this thing, but it is something that all working group leaders should keep in mind. So with that, I'd actually like to lead over to working group updates, status updates. I haven't been very diligent typing stuff into chat, so if someone wouldn't mind, banging out some Meetbot info lines, something like that, while I'm talking. Obviously, I'm incapable of doing both at the same time. So I'll just go ahead and start myself. So the whole community managed, user experience thing is currently not very active, except for work on the new PyBombs. Oh, that's nice. So wait a minute, Phil. You mean I can change whoever owns the session? Is that what I do? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So user experience-wise, the only thing that's currently going on, except for there's two things. So first of all, the CGRAN task force is still incrementally updating CGRAN itself, which we recently launched. Looks very nice. So for example, Ravi had a little update where the repository links, they just get rendered in a different way. Stuff like that's still ongoing, and my own efforts to rewrite PyBombs are also still ongoing. So there's it's a substantial change from the old PyBomb. So at this point, I've figured out proper prefix handling. One thing that's still not entirely done, but at least I now know how to do that, is proper SDK integration. So by prefix handling, I mean a clean way to handle multiple prefixes on your own machine. So say you have 2 prefixes for different out-of-tree modules, OpenRadio versions, and then you have a third prefix where you do your cross-compiling. All of this should be nicely automated. So if you do PyBombs install package into your ARM cross-compile prefix, it automatically does the cross-compile. Stuff like that is nearly there. But there's still a huge amount of just manual coding labor to be done. If anyone's interested in doing some Python work on that, I'd be more than happy to have more people helping me. So Seth from BT has already volunteered to do some work in that respect, and yeah, and between him and I, we're trying to announce it the new PyBombs at GRCon. Okay, Nathan, why don't you just take over and talk about what's going on at Falkland?
Yeah, so since I missed last call, since the last time I gave an update, Volk is a sub-project of GNU Radio, and I've been pretty happy. We've had several new contributors to Volk. They're not necessarily new to GNU Radio, but they're new to Volk, and so I'm happy about that. We've closed, since the Hackfest, we've closed 15 PRs and a couple of issues, so pretty happy with the number of contributions that we're getting. AVX2 support is coming in probably today. I opened a pull request for myself for that. That's probably going to be driving the next release. Other than that, there's just a bunch of it's mostly maintenance work going on right now, and yeah. That's Volt.
So I have a question for you, Nathan. You mentioned that there is little chance of people actually contributing kernels, and I'd like to understand why. Why is that? Is it just so hard to write kernels, or is there some other issue?
I don't think it's necessarily too hard. I think, for one thing, part of the so Volk doesn't necessarily encourage, but it allows modules. So it allows you to make the out-of-tree module similar to GNU Radio, but you never have to link back into Volk. So what I've seen is that the groups that are using Volk heavily are making their own modules, and the new kernels don't necessarily make it into mainline Volk. That's kind of the model that I've seen happen.
Okay, is that a model that was intended, or is that something, or would you like people to upstream their kernels as much as possible?
I think it's partially intended. It depends on what the kernel is. It's kind of like the blocks in GNU Radio, I guess. There are certain kernels that are, if they're widely useful to other people, then yeah, it makes sense to share it, and I'm happy to take kernels. But if it's something so specific to your project, then it doesn't make sense to share it with other people, and that's fine too.
Yeah, I think we should try to encourage feedback of Volt kernels as much as possible. They tend to be less specific, I would imagine, than a GNU Radio block, but I'm sure there's cases where they are. But yeah, I'd like to try to encourage that as much as possible, because that'll just make for a stronger base of capabilities. Certainly proto-kernels. I'm assuming what you said, Nathan, doesn't really affect the proto-kernel, which I think is another big area where
there's no reason to not share a proto-kernel if you have one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Anything else on the Volk side?
I think that's all. I'm going to try to have a call, probably since it's been a while since we've had a Volk-specific call, probably early June.
I will say that I have been using Volk on Android, and all of my work on Android. So my Swift paper goes over that a lot. Hopefully published, later this year, showing how we get some pretty significant speed improvements on my Nexus 7 with an ARM using the Neon kernels. And frankly, nothing really had to change. It was just applying Volk to blocks and making sure that the config files were accessible. But otherwise, it was pretty straightforward.
Cool. Okay. I'm just going to read out. So Sebastian and Doug, actually, they emailed us about updates, but they couldn't make the call. So I'm just going to read out their status updates. So Sebastian reports that a GRC working group has been quiet as ever. There is a new feature of bypassing blocks, which is quite nice when you're sort of debugging. So I say you have a string of blocks. There's one in the middle, like I don't know, like a filter or something, and you don't want to use that right now, but you don't want to disconnect everything. You can just ignore that, and it gets bypassed. So that probably will be merged pretty soon. And that's pretty much it for GRC. So as usual, I like to point out that writing GUIs is it's not as fun as doing signal processing for most of us, but it's super important. It has massive impact. I'd like to invite people to contribute to the GUI side of things. So that includes GRC, but also widgets, stuff like that. We often get complaints about how widgets don't exactly do what people want, but changing them, especially with the Qt stuff, is really not that difficult. And we really, really appreciate all the help we can get with that, because there's always a lot of manual coding labor that needs to be done for that. And yeah, we're just so many people. So anyone who wants to maybe start contributing, that's a very good place to go to. Doug also mentioned he couldn't make the call. So Doug runs the code processor working group. Doug says there's not much to report. So his group has been working on the custom buffer thing. So there is a document up. Actually, Michael, are you knowledgeable about that, the current state of that? I know you've been participating.
The last work that was done on it was by Doug, and it was a couple months ago. None of us have really had much time to work on it, unfortunately.
Okay. Can you just, like, in one sentence, in case someone doesn't know what I'm talking about?
Just quick summary of it?
Yeah, just like very briefly.
Yeah, I mean, so the concept is to change the way that buffers can be allocated so it can actually be owned by a specific block type. So that allows the block then to create its own special buffer that would, be an egress or ingress, depending on which way you want to transfer the data to your special device, whatever it happens to be. And that's the quick version.
Cool. Okay, so Phil runs embedded stuff, but he can't speak right now. Oh, wait a minute. He posts something. So there's something Fido exists. I don't know, Tom, you probably
That's
know
the
what.
next OE release.
Okay, so we have a new GNU Radio manifest for the next OE release. Anything else on the embedded side? You want me to talk out? Basically, yes. Okay, so basically what I just said is right. Oh, PyQWT. Didn't we rip that out?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything except for like some test or config or something, right?
The GR filter design tool
Yeah.
still uses it, but nothing that's like in the runtime or
Right.
any of the kind of runtime widgets in Qt. We've done away with the PyQWT dependency. We still use QWT. It's just PyQWT that we got rid of. And I looked at doing the same thing for the GR filter design tool to replace it with something else. It's pretty nicely wedged in there, so it would take quite a bit of work to overhaul it with a different graphics engine or backend or something. But it's a really useful tool to have, and it's one of those things. It's a Python module, so you can install that Python module, PyQWT, if you want. Pip install or whatever I think should probably work for most people. But if somebody is looking to do something to help us out, that is another good area. That filter design tool, it's another good area to attack to try to get that PyQWT out of it. And while you're doing it, maybe just make some improvements and visualization improvements at the same time would be helpful.
Cool. That said, filter design tool is pretty useful. I just recently used it for some RF work, but if it doesn't work when embedded, it's not that much of a detriment, I'd say, because rarely people actually develop on embedded devices. They run stuff on embedded devices.
Very true. You use it on a desktop, you design your filter, and then move that to the embedded system. So that is true. That's not a killer for that. I think the bigger issue from the desktop standpoint is I think, Michael, that there's some conflicts in OS X that I think maybe you figured out how to work around, but that's kind of the desktop-y related issue with PyQWT right now.
No, there's no workarounds in OS X, unfortunately. You just have to suck it up and deal with it.
Okay.
So we just use PyQWT 5.2, I think it is.
Yeah.
It works.
I mean, it would be nice to have PyQWT out of the picture altogether. I think we all agree on that.
Yeah.
I'm with that.
But we are at a state right now where it doesn't actually, impede any actual running of whatever flow graphs, even graphical ones. So that's great. Okay, Tim, you actually have something serious to say? Tim's calling. You have something to report?
So the working group's been pretty inactive. I've been kind of writing and working on examples and documentation, but I'd like to start convening, I guess, this summer and try to build some momentum before the GRCon. So I'll talk to you guys some next week about best ways to go about that, I think.
Are you at Virginia Tech?
Yeah, I'll be down there
You're
next
always
week.
at Virginia Tech, okay, so. Okay, cool. Did I forget anyone? I usually forget someone, but I don't think this week. Okay. So yeah, so for the working group leaders, try and come up with some new milestones and goals. We'll probably have a call outside of the dev calls. Tom suggested beginning of June, I think.
Yeah,
so we
I'm
definitely
thinking sometime in the first 3 weeks of June. I'd like to try to get us all together to brainstorm this.
right. Okay. So does this time, like Thursday, this time, is that generally okay for everyone? Because that sort of makes the planning a bit easier. We just have.
That's a good point. I'll throw that date out there to the individual working group leaders, and yeah, we'll start here and see if that works for everybody, or at least most everybody.
Cool. Okay. Well, that concludes the call. That was one of the shorter ones. Actually, as I did mention, we had a release since the last call, but there wasn't anything massively changing in that release. So I'm just gonna put it out there. So Corgan tagged it. He put out the live DVD and all of that. It's all available now. Like you can get the tarball, but it's not a crazy release that has like bajillion new features. It's just very nice that we have a new tag at this point.
Yeah, it's what we term a patch release. So it's
Yeah.
a patch on top of the last release. So it's just we fixed a few bugs, and at least one kind of critical bug we actually fixed in the TVC decoders. So yeah, it's a more stable version of what we released last.
Okay. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining. Next call is I actually put it on the G Plus page or like before this call right now, so it might already be in your mailboxes. So it's June 19th of June, usual time. By usual time, I mean the actual usual time, not what I just posted this morning as the usual time. So 10 a.m. Pacific, and then 10 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. in Europe, and what's that on the East Coast?
1 p.m.
1? Okay. Okay, guys. See you next month. Bye-bye.
Right.